Right now, I think everyone's on mute. Um, that's attending, besides the panelists, who are Marlene, Brad, and Lisa, our expert buyer experts here. And then everyone else in attendance, you're on mute right now, but if you want to chime in, feel free to ask a question. So the goal of today is to help you with any competitive buyer situations that you're in at this time, right? So I can't think of a better time in the market that this is more applicable. So we've brought in, let me start off from left to right here. We have the great Marlene Miller, also known as Brad, what is your nickname for Marlene?
The Red Velvet Hammer.
The Red Velvet Hammer, who successfully negotiated and closed on how many transactions last year, Marlene, on the buyer side?
I believe 26 or 28.
Woo! Man.
26. So I've 28,
Yes.
28 sides. So I would like, if while you're out there interacting with other agents, see if you find anyone else that's done more than 28, because I think she won the last year. I don't know that anybody did more. So awesome. So I can't think of a better person to have here to help you winning in competitive buyer situations. And then we also have Brad Morris. Brad, another great year in real estate and continues to win in competitive buyer situations. As a teaser, one of the stories that Brad will be sharing as an example today will be involve a pig and how it helped his buyers win a house. Okay. And we have the great Lisa P. So Lisa P, as you know, just a true pro at real estate. And I know I've asked each panelist to think about one win that they had last year that they could use as an example of where their strategies came into play and worked. I know Lisa's had some good ones last year. One comes to mind where uh, there was an open house scheduled for Saturday, but if you've ever get that alert on the MLS that the open house has been canceled and an offer has been accepted, there's a good chance Lisa P was somehow involved in that transaction and that her buyers are closing on the property. Okay. So Lisa can get into that deal if she wants. So what I want to do is I'll just start off from left to right here. And there might be some overlap here, but hey, that's okay if that's the case. So we're going to have the panelists go through their top tips to winning with buyers, and then an example. So first, I'll just ask you to start off, Marlene, with some of your top tips, and then we'll have everyone go through their top tips. Then we'll circle back and go through a story of a win that you had. Okay. Then we'll circle back to everyone that's in attendance here for a little Q&A session. And if you have any questions on, for example, like a tip that someone gave, they want some clarification on that, or if you want some more details on a story, the attendees, you're all welcome to chime in the chat or unmute yourself and ask that question. Okay. So let's kick it off with the Velvet Hammer, Marlene Miller.
Okay, great. So I would say some tips would be definitely do a buyer orientation. You want to understand exactly what it is that your buyers are looking for, and obviously what they can afford, right? So first, I always say building a house, you need foundation. That is definitely the foundation of where you need to start. And then obviously, when you're writing up offers, a good tip would be to really listen and ask the questions to the listing agent of what's important to the seller so that you can, strategize your offer around those specifics. So those are a few tips.
And Marlene, I've done that. A listing agent seems to share a lot. They're very happy to share.
Absolutely. It's amazing what they'll share if you just ask, Yeah.
Including what price that is the magic number.
Yes. Yep. That's always nice, right? I would say another big piece on that is, if you're writing up an offer and just because your buyers want the house, in the quickest amount of time, what if the sellers, want a buyer that is able to allow them to stay an extra 30 days. So once again, your offer may be pushed to the next because you didn't ask those questions. And your pre-approval, another big tip, pre-approval is huge in this market, making sure that you have the a pre-approval that is recognized, okay, from other agents, because once again, the listing agent has the ear of the seller, so it's important to make sure that they recognize that that pre-approval.
Excellent tips, Marlene. Love it. So I'm hearing just have good communication with the listing agent, build some rapport, and understand what's important to the seller.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Brad, do you want to go through some of your top tips and win in with buyers?
Sure. When I'm working with, buyers who are, and a lot of them are first-time buyers, so they're not super experienced. So what Marlene said about getting them grounded with buyer presentation is huge. And part of that process is I like to knock out like 5 home buying myths that they may have, because it can definitely color how they're looking at houses. So myth 1 is that they can buy if they own a house, they can buy their house without a new house without selling their house first. I mean, this is an absolute show stopper for buying a house. There's no way in this market, nobody is going to take that offer unless there's a real problem with the house. Contingencies are not good. So get them to sell their house first if they have one. Second one is, some people think that, if I go to the listing agent at the open house, I'll get a better deal. If I go directly, I'll get a better deal than working through a buyer's agent, because they'll pass the savings on, which is, as we know, totally not the case, right? Usually the listing agent gets to keep whatever they negotiate, the entire commission base. So they get to keep that. And plus the listing agent obviously is not looking out for the best interests of the buyer. So we're able to negotiate items included in the sale, a better price, things like that. Something else I've heard, kind of my third myth, is I've heard that I'm going to wait till the prices come down. I think we're on a bubble. Like, everybody is a real estate expert. Everybody can predict the economy, and they'll ask me, what's going to happen? When are the prices going to drop? And I'm like, if I knew that, I'd be a billionaire. I don't know, but I know that the interest rates are low, and people need to live someplace. And if you're going to be there a few years, and there's any dip, you should be able to ride anything out. The fourth thing is that people, they seem to start looking on Zillow without even having a pre-qualification or knowing what their numbers are. And me and Marlene mentioned this. You really do need to have that budget established, a real budget, not people guessing what they can spend. But you really need to have that pre-qualification or pre-approval, so you know what to look at. It's going to determine what towns you can look at, right? You can look at all the houses in Weston you like, but if your budget is $250, it's not going to go very far. And then another thing I try to get ahead of is the low balling, right? Everybody wants a deal on the house. I don't want to pay asking price. I want to get a deal on it. And the house just came on the market. It's the first week. I want to get a deal. It doesn't work that way. If the house has been on the market and they have a lot of offers, it's going at asking or above, unless there's a big problem with the house. So you got to kind of get the person's mentality about, it's an aggressive market. You need to be aggressive if you really want to own a house. My number one tip for buying is to use the escalation clause. I can't believe how many agents don't use the escalation clause still in this market. And the buyers feel good about it because it protects them against overpaying in their mind, right? They have a maximum price, and usually it comes in below that, so they feel like they didn't overpay. But you have to have somebody willing to do that, willing to have the budget to be able to go over an asking price situation. You can't do an escalation clause with like a $2,000 bump. It's not going to mean anything.
And I would I would add on the escalation, too, that, even as I sit here this morning, I'm actually, yesterday we put an offer in last night and there was no offers. And of course, this morning, magically there's another offer, right? So to Brad's point, in terms of the escalation, it's as simple as that, all right, well, we don't know what the other offer is. So here we go, right? So using the escalation is going to help the buyers not overpay.
Right. But one of the things I haven't done, and Matt will probably talk about this, at some point, is getting approval through underwriting. I've never actually had somebody get approved through underwriting, but I know it's extremely valuable, and I need to start pushing people to do that, because it takes away the mortgage contingency as long as the house appraises. I think that's the rule. It has to appraise. So that's a big one, which I haven't used, but in this market, I think I need to dial it up a little bit and use that.
So I'll add to that, Brad. So, because I'm looking at the list that, I compiled between, what you do, what I do, what everybody is doing. And the big ones that jump out are the escalation clause, which Marcia asked if somebody could explain. So I'm happy to explain that. And I did successfully use an actual approved loan in several instances. There was one situation down the Cape, and it was with another company. I know that Matt says it's difficult to get a buyer fully underwritten in this market with all the refis and stuff. So that might not be an option. I used to use another company. And what we did was we had them completely through underwriting, and we made an offer in a competitive situation. We said we can close in 2 weeks. So it really kind of rivaled a cash offer. Nobody could close that quickly. And I remember one down the Cape, she said, I don't believe that you can do it. And I said, we just did another one a couple of weeks ago. I can show you the dates. And she said, I will use him every day of the week if you can pull this off. And we pulled it off. It was like 15 days from offer to close. It was kind of crazy. So Matt, if you can get them to do it for us in this market, that would be amazing, because it was a huge upper hand. It was, like I said, you could compete with cash offers in that case. And the only thing that needed to happen, Brad, you're correct, is that it was contingent on a successful appraisal. Everything else was done. Everything else, all the paperwork, everything had been verified. They were the last minute, verification of employment that they do the final week and stuff like that. But other than that, the only thing was contingent upon was appraisal. So it was just like a cash offer.
And sorry, Lisa, I just wanted to add.
That's okay.
The biggest issue with that right now, and speaking with Matt, is the appraisals are taking at least 3 weeks. So that's where we're having a tough time.
Yeah. So, but I mean, if we can ever move that up, I've had some appraisals that were a little bit quicker, and I don't know what the difference is, Marlene,
It's the refis. It's the refis that are
Oh no, I know they're clogging the pipeline, but I'm just saying in certain deals, the appraisal has gone very quickly. So I don't know what the difference is in the waiting for the 3 weeks and, the ones that are out there like 3 days after the offer.
Drive-bys, they can do a drive-by appraisal, things like that are quicker.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's just the appraisal companies. So, but I was going to, Marcia asked if one of us could explain the escalation clause, and I've been using the escalation clause since day one. And basically, and I used to get more pushback because it wasn't as much of a seller's market, but I'd still find myself in competitive situations. So I'd explain to them that we're going to make an offer. Maybe it's at asking price. Maybe it's a little bit higher. Maybe it's a little bit lower. But then we're going to say, but if somebody else, it's like an auto bid. If somebody else pays more, we will pay $1,000 over that offer. And then we cap it at a maximum sales price. So as an example, the list price is $199.9, just as an example. We're willing to pay you $200,000, but if somebody pays more, we are willing to pay $1,000 over that offer up to a maximum of $220,000. And I always write in there with written proof. They can cross out the names, they can cross out the deposits. I don't care, but I need to see that the offer was a bona fide offer, and that we're not just competing against some Joe Schmo who doesn't have two nickels to rub together and they just put it there to bid us up.
And,
So,
so that's included in the escalation addendum that the MAR one. It does say it has
oh yeah.
bona fide offer.
See, and I don't want to say anything against what John may recommend or what John and Marlene may recommend, but I don't use the addendum. I just have a simple sentence because I feel that it's too complicated. And there are a lot of newer agents out there with this market being so, quick. So many people have entered the industry, and as you said, it's not that prevalent. I've been using it forever, but not as many people use it that you would imagine in this type of market. So if I'm going to get somebody who might not be as experienced or doesn't really understand it, I don't want to send them this complicated offer. So that's just my thing.
I do the sentence like you do. I write the sentence in the actual offer itself.
Yeah.
I say refer to the addendum, so it gives them the detail of it.
I do the same.
But I have had.
I'm a bad girl.
I have had agents like refuse to take it.
Yeah.
Experienced agents. Like, just give us a number.
Yes.
Well, and that's definitely the case. I don't know if they were like in banks foreclosure situations, Brad. I don't know if they were flips or anything like that, but okay. I've been pushed to give a number in those cases because they actually have to enter a number into their computer. So they can't say, well, it's this number, but then it's maybe this number if somebody pays more. That's the only time I've been pushed.
Well, that makes sense. That situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in the situation where it's, 20 offers and they're just like, no, we just want your best and highest. They don't even entertain it. Yeah.
So,
I do.
Most of the time I use it.
So one of the things I started to do, and I don't know if this came up in one of our Friday meetings or if this was a John thing, competing by not competing, is I don't do kind of the standard $1,000 deposit. And then in an escalation, I don't do the $1,000 bumps. I do bigger numbers, or I recommend bigger numbers, right?
Yeah.
Put $5,000 down.
Yeah.
For deposit. Do bumps of $2,500 or $3,000, or make some separation between you and the other competitors, because if it's $1,000 difference, there may be other things in there that are like, it's not worth the difference. These guys want to close a week earlier. You got to. I don't know. I like to make the number big enough where it kind of washes away other things that might be in somebody's offer.
Yes, it definitely needs to stand out in this market, even that initial deposit. So
I can hear John's voice say the biggest way not to compete is don't compete, right? So
exactly.
Yeah.
Give them an offer they can't refuse. I wanted to add one other thing right now is in regards to the timing. So something that I haven't seen a lot of people do, and Brad talked about it a little bit, is, maybe the sellers want to stay in the property post-close for a couple of weeks. Maybe they're not ready to close on their other house, something like that. But if I do always ask the agent, but if I don't get an answer or if they're not really sure, I like to show that we are completely flexible for those sellers. We're giving the sellers everything that they want. In fact, the buyers want to allow the sellers to select the closing date. And in the actual date, I put TBD. So I say, the buyers would like the sellers to select a convenient closing date between X and Y. And I usually give it like a month period if the buyers are able to do that. And that just shows them how flexible they are. They will come back and they'll pick a date, or they'll say, you know what? They have so much stuff to get rid of. Could we do a month and a half? I know that's longer than normal, but, so I always show that our timing is completely flexible, even if the buyers are going to be kind of at a hardship in order to do that. If they're willing to offer it to the seller, give the sellers everything they need and want.
Absolutely. And I saw Matt chimed in the chat that he said he might have some perspective on this from a lender's point of view. So yeah, Matt, if you have some insight into how to help buyers win, we'd love to hear.
Can you guys hear me or no?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
All right. So just 3 things that you guys talked about that I want to just add my perspective. So the quick close that Lisa mentioned, we can definitely close, at least put it on an offer, close as quick as you need to win. Usually what I tell realtors is, the normal turn times are 30 to 40 days from application to close. But if you need to win a deal, put quicker. That's one. And 98% of the time will be, I mean, if you put 2 days, I'm not going to be able to make it happen. But if you're going to put 2 or 3 weeks, I'll do everything I can. It's happened in the past. So that's number one. You know, I wouldn't go to that well every time, but if you needed to win a deal. The second thing is getting things approved through underwriting ahead of time. So before COVID, we did have a program that, and I think we were not the only lender that had it, that we could get full approval through underwriting without a property attached. But with the volume that's been happening in the last 10 months, 11 months at this point almost, it's not available to anybody. Even we have the guy who's the number one producer in the entire country, works for Guaranteed Rate, and they won't even let him do it. There's just not enough underwriters to underwrite. That being said, our underwriting turn times on a purchase are only 24 hours. That's it. So we can get an answer fast once you have an accepted offer. The problem is we can't do it without a signed offer. So it's not something you can put in with an offer, but we'll know quick.
That's great, Matt. I'm going to start offering 2-week closings. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Go ahead and use it every time. Yeah, that would be great. Our relationship would go very well if you do that. And then the last thing is the appraisal timing. So Marlene's right. The average turn time right now from the day we order an appraisal to the day we get it back is like 3 weeks. And Lisa's definitely right that it depends on the appraiser. There's appraisers out there that would get it back in 4 or 5 days, and there's ones that take a month. And we can't, as you all know, you three definitely know, we can't choose who the appraiser is. It's a law, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we can rush appraisals. It costs a client $200 extra, so on top of a normal appraisal fee. And I think most mortgage companies are the same. So even if you guys don't use me, most mortgage companies do this the same way. It's $200 extra to do a rush, and usually the rush one we can get in like a week and a half-ish. And to Marlene's point, they are doing, especially with COVID, they're doing more and more desktop appraisals where they don't even have to go in and meet the listing agent. And those ones usually go a little quicker too. So you can't do that with FHA, VA, or USDA loans, but you can with a lot of conventional loans. So that was it. Those are the 3 topics that you guys had mentioned I want to kind of chime in on.
All right, thanks for that, Matt. Thanks for helping out with that. And one thing that I wanted to just kind of dig in a little bit deeper on what Brad said about you really don't want to have those contingencies in this market, in that you have a house to sell before you can buy, right? That's the number one thing that you want to try to avoid, right? And in this market, you really want to educate your buyers as to how to proceed. And one of the things that you can definitely share is that, listen, the average days on market on a property is at an all-time low. Like the inventory is at an all-time low. So if you can have, ideally, this is the absolute best way to purchase a home in this market if you have another home to sell. And this is exactly what I did when we purchased a home about a year ago, is if you can have your buyers speak with Matt. If they're able to buy a home before they sell their current property, there is a limited amount of risk in there, in that your property, I did carry a mortgage, 2 mortgages for about a month and a half. Okay. And, that was a little bit scary, right? But I had confidence in this market that my house would sell that I had moved out of. And that allowed me to put an offer in on a home with no contingencies. And when are you in the best power position to get the best possible price as a buyer? It's when you don't have that contingency. If you do have that contingency, you're most likely going to have to come up higher in price. So doing it in that strategy, it can save you as a buyer a lot of money and help you win on the property that you really want. So I think that's a good one. It's just,
you got to be willing to take that risk.
Yeah.
People are nervous about that, but
yeah,
you know what you're doing. You're an expert.
Yeah, you do. You definitely would have to go through and educate the buyers, and that they would have to feel comfortable with that. So, but at the very minimum, what you want to have your buyers do if they have a house to sell is have it on the market, have an accepted offer, then make it contingent upon them finding a satisfactory home for the property that they're currently in to sell, right?
But you can go through the list, of options they have too, where they don't, they can sell their house, before they buy. So, do they have someone they could stay with? Could they get into a temporary housing for a short period of time? No one wants to move twice. We all understand that. However, sometimes, the outcome outweighs that, pain that you have to go through for a short time. So
Yeah.
I would say that, those are, it definitely in this market. I mean, I think Brad, hit the nail on the head with that one. That contingency is really tough. Yeah.
And I think that's
So
one of the
great.
pluses of buying before you sell your current property is that you don't move twice. You move
Right.
once, and you've got plenty of time to get your stuff out of your current property into your new home. So,
Yeah.
and
Can I offer a solution to that situation as well? It came up on the forum this week.
yeah,
So it's a rent back situation. So you get your house sold and you close on the property and you essentially rent back so that you don't have to move twice. So for
Yep.
example, if you get your house under contract and you get it sold and you are with flexible buyers because you're going to get everything you want as a seller, and you say, listen, I need a month to be able to close on another property. I need to rent back the house for a month. You don't have to move twice, and you've got them to agree to close on the property and rent it back to you. That essentially puts you in I love the power position, Eric, that you used. That puts you in the power position, and you can make basically a cash offer or whatever type of loan you had on your other house. You can make a really strong offer and not have the contingency to get the home sold. And you can have the protection of unless this property closes or unless we find something by X date, we're not closing on the property. So you'll have the second deal, you'll have that in play already. You'll know what your close date is and you're fully protected. You're not going to end up homeless, but you have more power to make that offer on the next house. So, and that's something that I did. It was for different reasons. I already owned another property, but I wanted to, I promised my son that he would have his graduation party around the pool, but I was paying 2 mortgages for 6 months. So I closed on my house and then I rented it back for a month. I paid him, I don't know, $2,000 or whatever to stay in the house for another month. And he was quite happy with that because he had to be. There were so many people competing for the house. So in this market, we know the sellers can get whatever they want. And that's something that I think we should start asking for. And it's very, very, very common in California. That's how people make the jump to the next property. They stay in their existing home until the other one is ready to close and they rent it back. So I'm surprised that hasn't taken off more around here, but we may see it more if this inventory continues to be so tight. So we'll see, but I like it.
I think that's amazing, right? Because when you sell and then you've got the money in the bank, you are literally now a cash buyer, right?
Yeah.
So and like you said, it's such a competitive buyer's market. You're very likely to have someone agree to that and have a rent to buy back. People might agree to 4 or 5 months right now. So it's
they'd agree to anything right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so why not ask? It would make the jump really so much easier.
Yeah.
One of the things I see a lot of now, which is kind of along that line, is that sellers put in a clause that it's subject to them finding suitable replacement housing. So it's kind of coordinating the closing date, but it's not actually staying in the house longer, but it's having more time to actually close, or giving the buyer, the buyers have to be willing to be flexible on the closing date, but the buyers are so desperate, to Lisa's point, they'll take it. They'll do that. And usually the sellers will find a house in 30 to 60 days anyway. So it's just kind of another way to slice it.
I did have a buyer the end of the year that it went into January because the seller wanted to, it was in Northborough. The seller wanted, and it was multiple offers. The seller wanted to stay in the house until after the holidays. And it was a good, 60 days additional. And that's how they want it because the buyer was flexible. They allowed that. So
you closed 60 days later as opposed to use and occupancy.
Exactly. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, you could do it either way, right?
Extended close. Yep.
One of the things I haven't heard about so far is, maybe I heard a little bit about it, was the relationship that you build with the listing agent, right? So there's so many offers, and I hear this from John, who and other agents that have listings, is that oftentimes you just get an email that says, please find offer attached and confirm receipt. And that's it. You don't even speak with the agent that put in the offer, right? So I think that's an example of what you don't want to do, right? So if you guys could talk a little bit about the relationship that you build and maybe any background that you give on the buyers that you're working with and how that's helped to win deals.
Well, I'm just gonna pick on myself for a second. I didn't listen to my own advice yesterday, and I was talking to an agent on a new property. It's going to be very competitive, and while he may have been a jamoke, I wasn't really nice to him. I mean, he was giving me 2 different times. The house is down in the property is down in Provincetown, and he wants me to get there for 10:20. He gave me that time and another time, and I said something about it's a really tiny property. And I'm like, does it have to be accompanied? Because that's a lot of people in a small space. So I was giving him too hard of a time, and I realized that later. I actually asked him also if I had trouble getting down there, if he was still going to honor the relationship that I had with the buyers. And he responded back, you or somebody from your office has to accompany the buyer. And I have a friend down there from another company that was willing to pinch hit. So I started to type back, like, that's a little restrictive, or and I was like, Lisa, what are you doing? You're going to ruin it for these buyers. I called him on the phone, and I was very nice. And I told him how excited they were about the property, and he must be going crazy with all the phone calls. And I said, can you work with me here? I'm just concerned about the snow. I'm worried because I'm so far away, and blah, 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 blah. So we got off the phone being much closer than we had started out, because he was kind of a jamoke. But you have to put that stuff aside, and you just killed him with kindness. I was just like, what am I doing? Anyway, sorry about that.
You can't let your inside voices out.
That's when you call each other up and vent.
Filter, exactly.
Yeah.
Filter.
Don't be a jamoke. Don't be. But if they are a jamoke, you just go along with it.
But it's true though, right? If you have a listing and the other agent is this being taped, Eric?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay. The agent's being a jerk, or is a jerk, and you don't want to work with them. That's not going to help their client get the property, because it's like a 6-week marriage to this other agent. You don't want to be stuck with them, and it's going to be painful for 6 weeks. You want somebody who's going to be flexible, professional. You just don't want to deal with it. So don't be that jerk. Be the good agent.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
If you're the buying agent and you don't get it, don't be a jerk after that either. Thank them for the agent for their time and consideration. You never know when it's going to come back to you.
They may call you back, yeah, or they might find another one very similar because they just sold that one.
And this is where we kind of tie in the pig story. So
perfect transition. Go for it.
I was runner up. Me and my buyers were runner up on a house. We were second, right? It was a multiple offer situation. We were second by a decent amount, right? They were paid they had a much higher offer. And, but we were very cordial, blah, blah, blah. I got a call, I don't know, like within the week, from the agent saying that the buyer that got the property found out they can't keep their pigs at the property. And this is in Grafton or something. And they're pulling out of the deal. They can't have pigs. And I'm like, did they know that going in? And she's like, the agent didn't say anything. The agent didn't know about it. And so the pigs, the first place buyers blew the deal by having pigs, and they didn't want to give the pigs up. So she called me before she put it back on the market. She's like, we'll take your deal. And I said, well, our deal was an escalation deal based on other deals. So we'll go back to our base. And so we were able to get it at our base escalation. So we got it a better price than my buyer was willing to pay. But it really was because, I kind of built a little bit of a cordial relationship, and they knew we would close. So it worked out. So you never know. You never know when something's going to come back to you. Stuff comes off the market or falls back. Deals fall apart.
Absolutely. And there's a lot more buyer's remorse in this market than there has been in the past.
If you bid something up, sometimes they do it to get the property, and then they're like, oh crap, what did I do?
Yeah, I would tell you that this was in Framingham. I actually had worked with some buyers, and this exact situation happened. I built rapport with the listing agent. We didn't win the deal, but the deal fell apart. The woman called me back, and I was able to, and this was the third offer. Some of you remember I said, oh my God, I lost my touch. Where's my red velvet hammer? I lost it. It was their third time, going up to bat. And, we were strong going in, but Framingham is hot, as we all know. And she called me back. We got it under agreement. And just recently, probably about a month ago, I closed. She referred her mom. Her mom relocated to Framingham. She was out in Malden. And I closed on a property for her mom, as well. So absolutely, building that rapport with the listing agent, you just never know when it's going to come back to you.
Was this Diane by chance?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So I had done some deals with Diane as well. And I think she had a good opinion of our office, right? That's the other thing.
Yes.
If you're a jerk, it could screw up other people in the office too. You don't want Century 21 Metro West to be looked at as Lisa said, a bunch of jamokes.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Brad, I did speak with you on this deal when it came back to me, as well. But you had a deal with Diane. I've had a couple with her since, too.
Oh, she's great.
She does a lot in Framingham.
Right. So we're building a relationship with one of the top agents in Framingham.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's helpful for all the agents, in the office, right? Is that you've got an office that's really well respected, doing good business. So
can I add to the rapport?
Let's get into the heartstrings.
Lisa doesn't have the red velvet hammer. She has the Milford quarry dive.
Will you stop it? No. But it's more than just being nice and being cooperative. It's kind of related. But I had some buyers this summer, and we were on our fourth offer, and they really loved this house. And I said, okay, strategy. They were first-time buyers, so of course they always had questions. The list agent is going to be there. We're not going to ask her anything. We're only going to say how beautiful it is. We're only going to say positive things. We don't care when the roof was done. We don't care when the siding was done. We don't care if this is vinyl or if it's, for mica or, we don't care. We're just going to be kind about everything. And so I think when as a list agent, when I get somebody who throws me a bunch of questions about the age of the roof, about the age of the hot water heater, which is $1,000 fix, about all these things, I'm like, oh, they're going to be really difficult if they have an inspection. So you give that perception right up front if you ask all those questions. Now, a lot of buyers are going to have those questions. Just assure them that they will get all their questions answered during the due diligence period. The time before the offer is not the time to find all those things out. You want to assume that the condition of the property is as you would want to buy it. And if it's not, you still have a way out as long as you're getting the inspection, which I know we need to have a conversation about inspections as well. Can I add one more thing to escalation? I want to go back to that for one second. So because I've been using that for so long, I used to find a lot of objections to it in the past. And I don't know if you'll still come across people that will feel this way, but a lot of people would feel, gee, we're giving away our position. And hopefully in this market, they do get it. There's not a lot of negotiating right now. They're not really giving away anything. They're just putting in their strongest effort. And the only way that they're going to have to pay that amount is if somebody else pays more than them. So I just kind of, try to make them feel better about that they have to put in their highest and best. And maybe it's, maybe this isn't an issue at all. I just know it was an issue when the custom was to negotiate offers. And right now that is not the custom for the last couple of years. So.
I think it's an issue in buyers' minds. I've never had one seller come back and try to negotiate us up to the cap after we were in first place on the escalation.
That's good to share.
Right, but I
Yeah.
think if it was a slower market, if it was, if it was a different market, Brad, I think that that they may try to come back and do that, and you absolutely don't have to. But it's just
different rules.
What's that?
I said different market, different rules.
Absolutely. Exactly. But if it does come up as an objection, you just assure them that the appraisal is going to protect them. That's all. So I just wanted to make that point. That
I just wanted to circle back, to the, having preparation or the foundation with your buyers so that, even getting into the questions, right? So the questions of their inspections, things at, when they're going to see the house. It starts with the foundation. You have to do that buyer orientation. You go through all of that. You talk about what a home inspection is based on the major items. You have the discussion of, and most listings, they actually have the seller disclosure, the seller description of property on there. So a lot of that information is already answered. So I make sure, that I share that with, the buyers. I mean, they can see it. It's an attachment, but sometimes, they're new, to the experience, so they don't even realize to click on that paperclip, right? So it's our job to make sure that we show them that, but it really, really helps, to prevent, those questions at the showing, if it's an accompanied showing, right, with the listing agent. And it's one of my strategies that I use. It's the strategy to state to the listing agent, I have already reviewed what a major item is, with them. So because their biggest concern is, right, although in this market, I suppose a lot of people are waiving home inspections, too. But if they're not, right, it's one of the strategies to tell, the listing agent that you have reviewed that information with them. So they're not renegotiating, after the home inspection. So I just wanted to add that.
And does anyone ever put any terms in the offer about the buyer not to request any items post inspection over this dollar amount? Is that something anybody uses?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I think in this market, it's, it's one of those things, again, it's either you waive it or you don't, a lot of times people are doing informational purposes only, but, we all know that's still contingent on a home inspection. And, but I have used that in the past, Eric.
If I can add to that, Marlene, if you have first-time buyers that absolutely will not waive a home inspection, I do have a couple of things that I suggest to them. And one is to use Warren Home Inspection because they guarantee, as an option, they guarantee a 2-day turnaround. And I've actually had buyers call Warren, book the appointment, and then tell the listing agent, we already have an appointment set up for Wednesday when the offers were due on Monday. We already have the appointment set up for 1:00 on Wednesday, in anticipation of a positive response. And that inspection will be for informational only, and they will not ask for any repairs and da-da-da. So, I mean, you're dealing with a lot of experienced buyers, and I know you're working with first-time buyers too. But if they absolutely will not 100% waive that home inspection, then there are other techniques that you can use. Well, the other one that I think that you beat me out on in Hopkinton was have a contractor come with you to the showing so that they have a cursory review of what, the condition of the property is, and they feel more comfortable making their offer without an inspection. So that's another option.
Well, there's a third option too, and that's put a home warranty on it.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's going to cover all the appliances, all the systems for a year, and it's I don't know, $685. So it's
American Home Shields.
Insurance. Yeah, it's cheap insurance to cover for a year. And that's a lot of what the inspection uncovers anyway.
Yeah, that's a good one. And another thing that I learned. Oh, sorry, Marlene.
No, I was 100% agreeing with Brad. That's an excellent one. Doing the warranty.
Yeah. The other thing that I didn't realize was that I learned from Brad was the lead inspection. Waive the lead inspection if they don't have any kids currently under 6 years old. Don't tell them don't ever do a lead inspection if they're planning on having children, but see if they would do that post closing, and that way they'd have control over it if they're not going to back out of the deal. If there was any lead, it can be corrected. So, somebody could just decline their offer just because they want to do a lead inspection. So that's how you get around that, is suggest that they do it after they close.
All good stuff. The only other one that I have here is, I don't know, where appraisals have been an issue with a lot of offers coming in and being accepted over asking price. Have you guys come into some issues where the home's not appraising? And if so, do you put anything in the offer in that, hey, the buyer can pay so much over the appraised price?
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I would tell you that that is huge, actually. And I wish Lena was on the call right now. But, multiple offer situation. And I would tell you that what else can you do, right? Clean offer. When you ask the listing agent what it is that their seller is looking for, and they say clean offer. So I would tell you, what is a clean offer? That's a clean offer. You're waiving home inspection. You are also going to pay up to, if the house doesn't appraise, you will pay, the difference up to, and you can put an amount on there. If you go over the offer by, $20,000, $30,000, you may still want it to appraise up to a certain amount. The house that I talked about in Northborough that they went to January 5th, which was, a good bit. We also said we will, that they would pay if it didn't appraise up to a certain amount. So that was another reason why, their offer was clean and it was accepted. So I'd be interested to hear what everyone else is doing.
And maybe Matt can chime in on that, because it's important that they have the reserves in the bank to allow them to pay, because the way that works is, say you agree to buy a house for $120,000, but it only appraises for $100,000. That $20,000 gap, you basically have to bring that 20 grand to the table, and then they're at 100% financing after bringing the 20 grand. So they need an additional down payment to get approved for the financing. So you definitely, and Matt, maybe you can confirm that and talk a little bit about that.
No, everything you said is right. Marlene and I just had one that came in 10 grand short in the appraisal. But she's a negotiating master, so she got the sellers to come in the middle. But it was a FHA buyer, and he didn't have a lot of money, so he couldn't go more than $4 or $5 grand above the asking. And he ended up, she negotiated right in the middle. He went 5 over, and I think he had like $30 left over for closing. But he's good. He's closing Friday, and we're good.
Yeah.
But I think Brad said it, but whoever said it, maybe it was Lisa, I don't remember. Make sure you have those conversations with your buyers up front if they have extra money. If they have plenty of extra money, then sure, the negotiation can be easy. If they're willing, they love the house that much, they're willing to go as far over. If you got 100 grand in the bank, more than your down payment, no problem. But when you're struggling to make the down payment to begin with, they might not have an option. They might not be able to do it.
Right. They can get a gift, right? I'm assuming, Matt, that's what I think we ended up doing.
If it's 4 down, well, so yeah, for that you can, yes. You can. I mean, there's very rare circumstances where you can't. The FHA, if you have a certain credit score, you can't get gifts for things, but it's really, really rare. I would tell you up front.
But just confirm the numbers work before that's something that you offer. I had somebody offer to waive their financing contingency for my house. And I said, okay, well, show me the full amount of cash in the bank, because if you don't get your financing, well, the list agent said, well, you get to keep the deposit. I said, I don't want the deposit. I want to sell my house.
Right.
So the numbers have to work. So before you offer anything like that in regards to the appraisal, check with the lender, check with the buyers, because the list agent is going to figure that out.
On the other side of this Marlene thing, right? So say she puts in an offer, it doesn't appraise, and I'm the listing agent, she comes back to me and tries to negotiate down. So before I even accept as a seller's agent an above asking price offer, excuse me, I put in a clause in there about the appraisal. It's not contingent on the appraisal. So if it doesn't appraise, you're coming up with the extra money, and they're committing to that, because I don't want to, as a listing agent, I don't want to be involved in a second negotiation as a buyer's agent, I kind of remain silent on the appraisal piece of it when I'm putting in an offer. And I hope that if it doesn't appraise, that we can get something back, or else the deal's off. We walk away from the deal.
Mhm.
But I don't want to have to negotiate with Marlene. If she runs up the offer 50 grand just to get it, and thinks she's going to fall back on the appraisal, I take that out of the equation. But I don't know if a lot of agents do that, though. I don't see a lot of listing agents taking that out of the equation.
Yeah, I do see some people do the it's not contingent on the appraisal.
Yeah.
I just, because if we do, exercise, and like, for instance, an escalation clause, I will put in the one in Northborough, I put an amount that it did not exceed, for an appraisal. Because they couldn't afford it, they couldn't afford it over that amount if it didn't appraise.
It can't be open-ended.
In Hopkinton, actually, is the one that I did that on, Lisa. The Hopkinton one, I put an amount, and if it didn't appraise to that amount, they weren't going to be able to, they're going to have to come down. And they did. That house was $26,000. It came in $26,000 less, than the offer price. Yeah.
And the reason that you got that is because you waived the home inspection, but not the appraisal. We waived the appraisal. They worked with their lender and figured out how they could afford it no matter what.
Yeah.
And they took, in my opinion, the wrong risk, because my buyers would have paid more. But the list agent met them. And because they were first-time buyers, they were full of questions. Oh, the list agent is here. She came. Oh, can you tell me when the roof was done? Can you tell me when this was done? Can you tell me what is this over here? And she was so nervous about them. She's like, they're first-time buyers, right? And I'm like, yes, they are, but they're very excited about the house, So if they had taken ours, Marlene, they would have gotten $26,000 more,
Well, we did an amount, remember? So we did.
Oh, yeah.
Out for the appraisal. So we were like, they can't afford it over this amount, so they had no choice. So they kind of got the best of both worlds. But to your point, they would have been able to get that 26,000.
Yeah.
That appraisal was just insane. Like, I don't even understand how,
they clearly didn't know Hopkinton at all.
It was tough. But so anyways, so someone asked, I think it was Gina, she's asking about the maximum amount that you can put as a gift, and maybe Matt, you could answer that.
For most buyers, there is no maximum. So if it's a conventional loan with, conventional loan in every case, you can get a gift up to the entire amount. This is for a primary residence, by the way. It's different with investment property, so we'll just stick to primary residences. But you can get a gift for the entire amount. If it's a government loan, meaning FHA, VA, USDA. First of all, VA and USDA, you don't need a down payment anyway, so I don't know why you would get a gift. But for FHA, you do need a down payment. And yes, you can get a gift with FHA, but it's a little more. And yes, you can get it for the whole amount, but there's more conditions around it. The donor has to give bank statements, so we have to know a little bit about the donor, bank statement wise, which doesn't happen on a conventional loan. And if the credit score on an FHA loan is under a certain level, it's either 620 or 640, you can't get a gift for the whole thing. You at that point have to bring some of your own money. So it depends on the credit score on FHA.
And
hopefully that answers everything.
And can the gift go towards closing costs?
Yep. Yeah. Again, there's exceptions, so not everything's black and white with lending, but there's exceptions again with credit score people on FHA. But in general, yes, it can.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, excellent.
Can I talk about the as-is inspection?
Yeah.
Because Marlene was saying, and because it's so competitive, like, doing an inspection for informational purposes only doesn't really mean a lot. But it does mean something. I mean, it's still, the way that I write it is, it still protects your buyers, but you still have the option, to get out, but hopefully it will make the sellers feel better if they are willing to allow an inspection. So basically, the informational purposes only, I write in, the buyers will not be asking for any repairs from the seller. that doesn't mean that they can't back out. And I had a deal this past fall where we won in a very competitive situation. They loved our offer, blah, 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 blah. Inspection for information only. The inspection was a disaster. Thing is that you still have the power to go back and say, we can't move forward. Would love to, but we can't go forward because there's a 20 grand issue here. So I was able to get 20 grand off the price because they didn't want to go back to the original buyers. We were kind of too far into it because the inspection took quite a lot of time with the multiple issues that we had to go on separate occasions. So as the last resort, it doesn't mean a lot. As Marlene said, it doesn't mean a lot, but it does mean something. And if that's the only thing that your buyers will allow, put it in there. Put it in there and make the sellers hopefully feel better. At least you can try to compete with that. And then you're still protecting them because they don't have to go forward if there's a major issue, and they may still be able to keep the house.
I mean, there's 3 levels of really doing the inspections, right? There's 3 levels of risk on this. You do the appraisal as normal. I mean, the inspection is normal, like regular offer.
Yep.
You do it for info purposes only, or you waive it completely, which is like level 10 expert level. There's risk with it. There's absolutely risk with that. To Marlene's, meeting, you really need to know your buyers. You need to know the property. If it's a, 300-year-old property and you waive the inspection, I mean, that's pretty risky.
Yeah.
Brand new house, you put you put a warranty on it. You might feel a little bit better about doing something like that. Right. If they absolutely have to have the house and they don't care, I mean, there's risk. There's risk with it, but there's reward as well. So it just depends on how much, what the situation is and how risk averse your buyers are. But the info purposes only. A lot of the sellers and listing agents, they seem to think, oh, that's great, info purposes only. But they don't realize, what Lisa and Marlene are doing. They're kind of Trojan horse. They're a Trojan horse. They're in the transaction, and they can still walk away. But with a waived inspection, it's gone. You don't even have that option.
And it might not even be walking away. It might be what Lisa did, which was negotiate $20,000 less.
She would love to stay in the deal, but she already said that she's not going to ask for any money. So
we would love to still buy the house.
That puts it on the seller to decide how badly they want to keep her in the deal.
Exactly.
The last thing I want to, sorry to cut you off, Brad. The last thing that we haven't talked about is, like Lisa was talking about, how her buyers came in and the impression that they made on the listing agent with all those questions was like, oh geez, like this might be a tough buyer to work with, right? So helping position your buyers to the listing agent and even to the directly to the sellers as they relay the offer. Like, you see those offers that come over, like, please find offer attached and confirm that you received the offer, right? What are some tips on what we call pulling on the heartstrings?
Oh boy,
this
is a controversial one.
Yes, this is. Marcia's going to want to get in on this one.
Marcia hates this one.
Uh-oh.
Are we talking about like having them write a letter? Is that,
It's basically, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you find that helpful? Is that something you do?
I think it's helpful.
Yeah. I agree. In certain situations, if it's an estate, if it's a vacant house, the person has already moved on, it's a state, there's certain situations that I don't think it matters. Quite honestly, like an attorney is selling the house. They don't care about the letter.
Although Marlene, I did that on an estate 2 years ago, and I ran into the agent. It wasn't the attorney, actually. It was the agent for an estate sale, and he still remembered it. He still remembered the crayon drawing that the buyer's daughter drew of the house.
Yeah, I suppose in that situation it's good, but I just had one that the attorney was selling. So I asked the question. I asked the seller. I mean, the listing agent. I'm like, what's important? They're like, yeah, a letter is not important. They're like, they don't care. They want the price. They were just honest, but I agree with you. Sometimes, if the listing agent is the one that has, the ear of the whoever's selling it, then I mean, whatever it takes, it can't hurt for sure.
I've never had it hurt. People, most sales are not estate sales. Most of them are regular sellers.
True.
And
Well,
I've heard of people doing songs, poems. I saw the crayon drawing for Lisa's house, but Lisa didn't care about the crayon drawing for the kid. She was like an estate attorney. She wanted the number. But yeah, I mean, the letters, it
So
helps.
Gina actually just wrote in that she says, my buyer wrote a letter including the dog, and
Yeah.
that she is a teacher who sees herself sitting in the office downstairs teaching remotely. The listing agent told me that she had another offer in hand that was more, and
That
they
wasn't
wouldn't
higher.
offer because of that letter. There was some
I have,
so
okay, I'm ready to comment.
Uh-oh,
Yes, Marcia, you have the floor.
don't report.
Okay, so my position is, as a listing agent, I do not want to see those letters because it is all about risk management and minimizing risk and the perception of discrimination, so that nobody can ever come back to me or my seller client saying, you didn't choose me because, or you didn't choose us because.
Well, they still could, Marcia. They could, because there are crazy people out there, and the sellers could have Googled their Facebook. So, yeah.
But if there's nothing in writings explaining both of those parties, then I'm cool. As a buyer's agent, hey, more power to me and my offer and my buyer. I'm going to write the letter, or I'm not going to write the letter. I'm going to have the buyers write the letter because it improves their position in negotiation. It's up to the listing agent. The listing that I'm about to put on an MLS literally says on the firm remarks, buyers' personal letters, personal letter attachments will not be presented to seller.
And I think that's the right way to go, Marcia. I mean, we play both sides all the time. And, every time, I'd been mentoring Jessica, and every time she'd call me, she'd ask me a question. I go, well, which side are we on? It's very important which side you're on. So on the buyer side, can it hurt you? Is there risk? Not an awful lot. On the seller side, absolutely. You could, but crazy people, like, as I said, they'll still sue us for crazy reasons. But I understand you're minimizing risk. Totally get it.
It's all right. I just used the name Eric Wittenhagen anyway, so.
Hey, I'm happy to be the scapegoat. Whatever the team needs. You got to represent me in court, though, Brad. Everybody get a lot of helpful hints there. Give me the thumbs up. Give me the thumbs up if you did. All right, awesome.
I always learn something on this.
We didn't really get into like a personal win example. We got Brad's pig story, how he won, right? Marlene, do you have one that you want to give us an example that you use some of these strategies to win?
Well, I think that, I touched upon a lot of strategies that help win, but the biggest one is really, I always use you have to first listen, right? You have to listen to understand before you're understood. It's extremely important. I say that to myself all the time. As much as, there could be that agent out there that, just doesn't necessarily isn't someone that you would probably be friends with outside of this transaction. I just look for, building rapport in the relationship, because it comes back to you, in the end. And I look to how I want, to be perceived as an agent. And I want to be helpful. I want to be, regardless if I don't win that particular deal, I may have another offer, that I put in, and that agent's going to remember. So I would say that that's the biggest thing for me, is that I feel that I keep my process, solid. I don't change my process, when it comes down to the beginning, the foundation. Buyer orientation, has to be had. I have to have a conversation and understand exactly what everyone's looking at. And then I listen to the listing agent, to make sure that I tailor the offer to what the seller is what's most important to the seller.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, it wins.
Yeah. Don't just be that agent that just emails an offer without speaking with the listing agent.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yep.
That's a huge mistake. Yeah.
All right, Lisa P, do you have an example of?
Can I add a little story? I think the one that you referred to.
Yeah.
There was an open house set up. I don't think that the showings were deferred until the open house. But I contacted the agent and I said, it was very new to the market. And I said, I have an offer for you. She says, well, I'm not sure if they're going to wait until the open house to review. And I said, well, you haven't seen it yet. So she said, well, send it over. And it was done like within a half an hour. They were like, yeah, that's good enough. It was a fantastic offer. So I said, the only thing is we'd like for them to cancel the open house. So I think it's a little bit tricky. If they say they're not going to review to the open house, you might get on the list agent's bad side if you push it. But in this case, it didn't say that. She was undecided. And I just said, well, you have to see how great the offer is before you make that decision. And we were able to take it off the market right away. So I think that's the one that you refer to.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. And you probably already had the inspection set up before you called her. Be like, hey, this is the offer. The inspection's the day of the open house, so you can just cancel it or something
exactly.
like that.
We did. We had everything, all the items that I tick off, and it was set in it. And I said, we've got the inspection set up in anticipation of a favorable outcome. And the sellers reviewed it and it was great. And the only other thing I want to say is estate sales, even if the attorney is managing it, sometimes those are the most important to pull at the heartstrings because there are still going to be heirs involved. And if they hear that teachers want to move into their house and their parents were educators, as in the case of my parents, it's going to make a difference. So don't just, just because an attorney is handling it, don't just say, well, they don't care. And I mean, I'm not saying that the examples that you use that it would have made a difference. It could have been a different situation, but just keep in mind that estate sales oftentimes can be getting rid of the family homestead and people can be extremely emotional.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I would tell you that in my example specifically, that's what the listing agent stated that, the attorney's not interested.
Yeah. I just didn't want all the panelists to think that that's the case in every.
I think that was more of a legal situation with him.
Yeah.
So with the heartstrings, great story by Gina too. And I know Xavier recently helped the buyer win in a situation, and Jessica with a letter and communication with the listing agent. So when I was purchasing the property we bought about a year ago, I actually used my BombBomb video app. And I did a little video with the girls and I asked them, what do you like best about the house? Like, we like the pool. It looks like we can't wait to go swimming. And the listing agent happens to live right across the street from us now. So we knew that she lived across the street. So it was like, it can't hurt. Those things cannot hurt. So heartstrings can only get you. Heartstrings can only get you so much, but hey, if there's something that's a close offer, that can put you over the top,
A plug on Friday's meeting this week. I would tell you that I am so excited to hear all these. I don't know who's going to get Relentless Agent of the Week, but as a plug to Gina, she's on my team. She had 2 offers accepted this week based on, really just using a lot of these tips that we just discussed. So I'm excited, for her to explain that to all of you guys on Friday. I told her, listen, you have to join, because it's, but I know there's a lot of people out there this week that had some really good offers accepted on using these tips.
I know Jean's on the call. Jean, this is another strategy. If someone has a house paid off, they have a home equity line of credit on their home. So basically, when you have a home equity line of credit, it's just like you can literally write a check that clears the next day for a house. So it's as good as a cash offer. So Jean strategically positioned her buyers to win an offer using that strategy recently. So that's another good one. If you've got a house paid off, just, hey, tell them, take out a home equity line. You can get a home equity line in like a week right now. Another tip that Matt Packer gave me is Hanscom Credit Union. They do home equity lines up to 100% loan to value right now. I did an application about a week and a half ago and I'm closing on Friday. And now I have money just if for whatever reason you ever need that equity in your home, I'll have access to it.
We know who to call now,
Eric. Yeah. So
Eric
that
only
was a good
charges 25%.
Money bags. Mr. Moneybag.
No, that's you got to pay that back. That's a home equity line. If you borrow it, you got to pay it back to the bank.
Eric's running a hard money operation.
Hey, Eric, I'd like to share one little story.
Yeah,
that
of course,
happened
Gene.
to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, my happiest day was this past Saturday, and my VA client's offer got accepted. We stopped the owner. It was for sale by owners. Stopped the family. They still did open house, but but they accepted our offer before the open house. And I think there was a lot. Of course, we did all those things, letters and then personal connections and all the stuff, And when we decided to be the first one submitting the offer in, because I knew my clients, based on the history, the experience, I've been with this guys for like 5 months. We just didn't. There was really no chance for us to win any offer, their offer accepted, and due to this low inventory. So I decided I chat with my clients and decided to do like their best and final offer to be the first offer in. And we submitted an offer like past 9 p.m. And I wrote them a long letter and expressed my clients and their family, whatever. And then also presented them to them myself as a high close rate agent, and I even offered them I will be able to help them to guide them through with all the entire transaction for no charge. And so I think they liked that. And during the time when we went over to see the property, it's a estate sale. And the 3 siblings were there, and we had a lot of good conversations. And they asked me about, safety protocol regarding COVID-19. I gave them all the advices and then plus and more. And then then with my letter, I sent it over. And in the beginning, they they replied me back. They're like, we promised public we're gonna do open house, so we're gonna wait. I was very disappointed, but I did not break the news to my clients until next morning, like 8:30. They called me. And they said they decided, accept my client's offer. They like my clients, and they remember those young couples, and they like them, blah blah. And then they immediately asked me what to do with open house. So I think there got to be a little bit of that too. So that was really really cool. That I feel like I won the lottery.
Good for you, Gene. Yeah, and I know one of the challenges you had there is that they were doing a VA loan, which made it 100% financing. So in this market, you're competing with much bigger down payments, so that so that's not as strong an offer.
And they're doing the inspection too. I mean, based on the property we saw, that's a great property. There was absolutely no major problems at all. Actually, they did pre-inspection. Roof, furnace, all the major items are pretty new. All like a couple of them are brand new. So, and then with like all the space, like that property in Westboro is going to be, I truly believe that could have gone over like a 30 or 40K above asking price. And then we put only a little over 10, like only 10K over.
Excellent. Well, congrats.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I was just wondering, how did you, what do you attribute it to? Was there anything specific? Was there a military connection? Like, how did you do the deposits initially? Because I know in this market, it is tough to get somebody to understand and accept a VA loan.
Mm-hmm. So, there's no military connection. I actually, so this is something I think, to do, sell your own home, like for sale by owner, they're not experienced. They don't know the market. They could get more money, I truly believe, if they use an agent. But it's in favor to me, to buyer agent, right? To buyers, if you know
That's
exactly
right. Yes, it was a for sale by owner.
Exactly. So the day when we went out, tour one property, and to end up we found a couple more open houses in Westboro. And then I look up while my clients out there running around, I just look up my computer and I saw, this particular one, it's just came on the market, like literally that morning. And there's no sign says open house. It says for sale by owner. I was like, wow, then I called them while we're touring one property, and they said, yeah, we tried we just came on the market and then we don't know how to market, and it's just like I was like, can we go over like in about 15 minutes? And yes, like we went over. 3 siblings were there in the house. There was nobody there. So we took our time. They showed us the property. We had a really great conversations. We spent a lot of time there. Did a lot of personal connections. And so I think that was a huge.
And you offered to help them, it sounds like.
Yes, I offered to help. Yeah, I gave them advices. I said, before we left the house, I made sure they understand that, I said, because they were like trying to still figure out we should do the open house tomorrow or following 2 weekends, whatsoever. I was like, well, just make sure, take your first offer very seriously. Most of the time, those are the most, motivated, most serious buyers, the most legit buyers. And, sometimes the highest offer doesn't mean anything. They'll come back to you after, they could come back to you after inspection, and the appraiser, if it doesn't appraise. So I give them like a couple critical, sort of advices. And so like, I've been trying really hard, like, just understand like what buyer needs and or seller is afraid of it. So I try to insert those in to their mind. I guess that's what you can say. It just you have to win your battle.
Can I ask one other question?
Yeah, sure.
So you just charged a buyer agent commission. How did you handle that with the for sale by owners?
So it is on a listing sheet. So that is that.
Oh, it was an entry only. Jean?
Yeah, entry only. Yes, it's on. If it's not, I normally have a form fill up before I go or bring with me when I show the house, and if I meet the owner, I'll have them. Or definitely, I will verbally have them agree. Say this is what you're gonna pay me, and if they say yes, then I'll send a form over. If I don't meet the owner at the property, or if I do, I bring it over, have them signed.
Outstanding, Jean.
Yeah. So that was like winning the lottery to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's huge. How long had you been working with them?
Since I think September.
Oh my gosh.
Last year.
Yeah.
And they were with another agent beforehand for like 5 months. Yeah.
Yeah, that was meant to be. That's amazing. That is so tough to find them something in this market.
And my buyers were so picky too.
Yeah.
I almost dropped them. I was like, I don't think if I said, give another month. I don't think I will be able to handle this, because their budget is only like a $500K.
Yeah.
And in Westboro only.
With zero down payment?
Yeah. They have put on, well, they were putting down $20,000 down payment, which is like very little for 2%, 3%,
But then getting it back at closing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did you find out, one more time, how did you find out the home came on the market? It was an entry only in MLS?
Yeah, it was on MS. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I happened to be just looking at, because I showed them a one open house. It was like, there was like 20 something cars lined up out there. Okay. And then after we're done showing, I got back home, and then they were just driving around, and they said, oh, there's another open house they'd like to go. Oh, there's another house they look up at their phone. So I was like, okay, let me look into it, see if I can schedule it. And then I found 2 more or 3 more houses came on the market, and I immediately set up an appointment and took them to see, the same day. And then, we put an offer on one of it.
Excellent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think, we had this go to 11:30. Is there any other questions from the attendees today that anybody has? Okay.
Marlene, did you see my question to you?
I did not.
Okay.
I don't think it went to me.
Oh, it does say to you, but I just wanted, as a broker owner, do you want to add about waiving an inspection, about how to be careful about how you?
Yes, absolutely. So I would tell you that You should never tell your buyer to waive an inspection. You should simply tell them, when they ask you what's getting it done, you can tell them that people are waiving inspections, and that seems to be getting it done. However, if they plan on doing such a thing, you're not an expert at home inspections, okay? So you need to make sure they understand that. You simply would tell them that, they should probably bring like a contractor with them, someone that knows homes, to the showing if they are considering that. But you should never tell them directly to waive a home inspection. And that's how I handle it. I say, listen, if they say, Marlene, how are we going to get this house? And I would tell them, some people are giving clean offers. And what that means is they're waiving a home inspection. They are, doing appraisals, which they will pay the difference if it doesn't appraise to a certain amount. However, I am not going to tell you, and I emphasize this, I will tell you, I am not going to tell you to waive a home inspection. You need to understand, what that entails if you're waiving a home inspection. And then
the
we'll go into
form,
the details. What's that?
And then the form, facts for consumers, home facts for consumers.
Oh, yes. You always, well, that's part of, John and I have set that up. When you're doing any type of documentation, that's required, for you to set that up. So that's a no-brainer. That facts for consumers is part of your forms when you're doing a package, for a buyer.
Just that we have to present it though. Like in this situation, I'd have them sign it.
Yeah, you submit it.
Just to prove it.
It's not assigned, it's not required, because when your form gets sent out, we can see that you sent it.
Okay.
It's part of it. So it's
I
not
still want them to sign it though.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. That's fine. But like I said, it shows it's part of the offer.
Oh, I know.
Signing the offer saying they're doing whatever they're doing with the inspection.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed it. Which form was that you're referring to?
It's the form that's facts for the consumer. It's regarding a home
Pamphlet.
inspection.
It's not really a form, right? It's a pamphlet.
It's a pamphlet. Yeah, brochure. If you.
Oh, yes. Yep.
It says home facts for consumers, and it's just about the inspection, Eric. And yeah, I mean, and actually the offer says you have been presented with this. So, and they are signing that. I just like to, just cover my butt a little bit, and I would have them initial or sign that if they decided to waive the inspection.
Gina chimed in that it can be. Gina chimed in that it can be initialed now.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, it's not something as a broker owner that it's required. It's required to send out to them, and we can see that you did that you presented it.
Hi, Marlene. I have a question. Like, if they waive the home inspection, still we have to send it?
Yes.
You have to send that form,
Okay.
initially to your buyers, not to the listing agent. I just want to emphasize.
Okay.
Is that what your question was? Who you sent it to?
Yes, Marlene. Yeah. That is for the buyer. If they waive the home inspection, also still we have to send it. That's my question. And you said yes.
Yes. Yep. You're initially sending that to them. Absolutely. Even if they're waiving it. Yep.
Okay.
Well, Lika, the reason that I have them sign it or initial it is just as extra protection, because somebody could come back if they have a problem with the house and say, well, you told me not to have an inspection, and that form shows that that's not what you told them.
You should never tell them that, ever.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Just emphasizing that. You should
Yeah.
never tell them to waive a home inspection.
Yeah.
You should simply just let them know what's happening in the market. You're informing them. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Lisa, for that.
Well, unless there's anything else, let's thank all the panelists and everybody that participated today, Matt and Marlene, Brad and Lisa, and everyone that attended today and participated. So thank you so much for attending Winning in Competitive Buyer Situations. And I'm always open to putting these together. I just thought I couldn't think of a better topic in today's market. So, keep the ideas coming. And we're happy to put some more of these together.
Let's hear it for Eric. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Oh, I thank you. Thank you so much. Okay.
He needs his own show. He needs his own podcast.
Don't podcast.